3, 2.
Welcome to Cabomil News and Community Update in English. This is Korey Riggs along with Claudia Velo. Claudia, welcome to almost the end of April. Can you believe it?
I'm just going to say that, yes, I can't believe it, because every week we kept saying, no, it can't be. And yet here we are. April is basically over.
Well, it's the weather's nice. It's getting a little warmer, but it's still nice. I'm not having to put my air conditioner on at night yet, so that's always good news. Got the windows open, nice breeze. I don't see any whales anymore. That's the only sad thing for me right now.
They're pretty much gone. Last Saturday, I think it was their farewell appearance, and it was really amazing because they were jumping right in the middle of the Bay of Cabo San Lucas, right off Medano Beach, in the midst of a lot of the sailboats that were here for the scuttle race. So it was really a beautiful farewell for the whales.
That was nice of them to say that, to say farewell like that.
Yeah.
Well, we have an amazing show today. We have some folks from the Phoenix Herpetological Institute, or I don't know if I said it right. I'm going to let them say it right when they come on. But we're going to have them on in a minute. And if you are listening on the radio, you should go check this out on Facebook at Cabomil News, because you will see a giant snake right now, because they're already on. So you can watch. We're gonna see lots of really cool things today. We're going to talk about venomous snakes. We're going to talk about other things, reptiles, and we'll get into that in a minute. But Claudia, why don't we start with some news?
The news. So COVID. Still the same. All 4 municipalities, Los Cabos, Comondú, Mulegé, and Loreto, at level 3. La Paz still at level 4. Good news from the press conference given by the safety committee, the health safety committee, is that the number of new cases for this past week was less than they expected. It was lower than the forecast. And also, the fatality rate in Baja California Sur is the lowest in the entire country. And it is less than half of, well, almost half the average median for Mexico. So fatality rate is 4.9%. And so that's 95% recovery rate. And that was really good. Also, the hospital occupancy dropped, and it's only at 15% for the state. So things are looking good, and we will hopefully continue along this trend.
That sounds great. Did you hear about the CDC guidelines that got released?
Tell us all about
lately? Well, first of all, CDC has previously released guidance that those with documented COVID-19 who have recovered, listen to this, should not be tested again unless they develop new COVID-like symptoms. The revised CDC guidelines concerning those who have received full vaccinated status greater than 2 weeks prior is that those individuals do not need to either quarantine or be tested if they are identified as close contacts with a confirmed case. So I think both those pieces of news are very good.
Positive, very positive, yes.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
Everything moving in the right direction. Los Cabos continues to promote itself as a destination of choice for the people that are ready to spend a wonderful time and really do something different. And they have a new campaign. They launched a new campaign that it's called Set Yourself Apart in Los Cabos. It is aimed at tourists with high purchasing power who are looking for attractive, personalized experiences. There's a lot of tour operators, service providers that are focusing on this segment of the market. And Los Cabos continues to set the bar for how to promote and how to continue to attract people for wonderful experiences. So yeah, that's good.
Set yourself apart. It makes me laugh a little bit, because what it reminds me of is social distancing. Set yourself apart. That's what came to my mind. I was like, is that what they meant?
That's exactly, no. Yeah, that's exactly
that's what they're going for.
The reasoning behind the campaign, and it's like you can have an exclusive experience. You don't have to be surrounded by thousands of people. You know, we have lots of private exclusive areas where you can just kind of like enjoy Los Cabos, but at the same time feel like you're safe and enjoying the open air in, you know, kind of like with your close friends and family.
Very good. Well, before we get into the interview, how about the Alliance had a press conference today?
Yes, the Alliance. We started working on all this effort and this huge effort a year ago. And this week, it was Thursday that the Alliance had a press conference announcing their results. As of course you know, Korey, because you're such a huge part of all that effort. Last October, there were the results for 6 months where the Alliance announced 217,000 food baskets delivered, 97,000 families reached, an average of 400,000 people that actually received help from the Alliance, along with $760,000 donated in equipment and supplies and for the medical sector. But the Alliance has continued to work, and they confirmed that for the last 6 months, they have been actively supporting the Alliance for Food Security in Baja California Sur. They have distributed hundreds of thousands of meals. They have helped the Food Alliance distribute hundreds of thousands of meals, and they will continue to support this effort for the next 18 months. But also they have committed to help support and help fund the Red Cross in La Paz, Loreto, and Comondú, because these three organizations, because of the pandemic, didn't have an opportunity to do their fundraiser, which is normally people standing at street corners asking for donations. Because of COVID this year, they couldn't do it, and they were really in need of support. And so the Alliance, following on their two main focus areas, which is food aid and health aid, continue to support that. So great news and great commitment, huge effort, something that it was really touching to watch. It was the premiere of a small documentary that's called Los que no se ven, the unseen ones. It's a 3-minute little film. You can watch it on the Alliance Facebook page, and it really shows what the effort meant to take all this help all over the state for the last year. So.
No, this effort, this 97,000 families is about 400,000 people. And you think about that, that's half the population of Baja California Sur was provided food support by the Alliance, absolutely kept this area safe. Absolutely, there's no government safety net here. This was the safety net for this area. And it's a story that hopefully this documentary, it should be told. Everyone worked together, businesses, nonprofits, the government, the gringos, the Mexicans, the Canadians, they all worked together. And it was just an amazing effort. And it was great to be part of it. And thank you, Claudia. I know you worked hard on that press conference, and I know it went well. I was listening in. Well, I want to get into the interview. And if you're listening to 96.3 FM right now, you are missing, well, you're going to hear it, but you're missing out a little bit. You should be on Facebook watching this at Cabomil News, because let me tell you a little story, Claudia. 2 years ago, I was flying back from Australia, and I landed in Phoenix, and I had huge jet lag, and I had the radio on, and this ad came up that was talking about how to deal with venomous snakes at the Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm not going to sleep anyway. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go do this thing. And I drove out to North Scottsdale. I went there. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've had. And the reason why I was coming back from Australia, and you know, in Australia, there's all these poisonous snakes, venomous snakes that, and everybody says they're all going to kill you. And I was just wanting to know about it when I was there. That's all we talked about was the snakes, and there's like an octopus that kills you. Everything kills you in Australia. But anyway, so I went to this thing, and I actually met the gentleman that I'm about to introduce. And I have to say that I wish I had this job title. This is Joe Hymes, and he's the Venom Curator. Isn't that the coolest?
It is the coolest.
Joe, welcome to the show. And we're also bringing in Olivia Bogues, who is the conservation educator at the Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary. And we're going to talk a lot about that, but welcome to the show, Joe and Olivia.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
It's such a pleasure to be on.
Well, we're so excited because, and Olivia, you have a snake in your arm right now. Can you just tell us a little bit about the snake?
Whoa, I have a snake in my hands? What?
This is Sheriff. He is a Sonoran Gopher Snake. So he's a non-venomous snake that we can use for education classes. You might have seen one in your class when you came here. We'll also show them to students so that they can be more aware of them in our desert if they're walking around outside, doing hikes, or just being outside in their own yards. Yeah, these snakes are important for our desert. Again, they're non-venomous, but they can actually mimic rattlesnakes and do a couple of displays to try to keep you away from them. But ultimately have a non-venomous bite.
Ah, okay. Well, it definitely looks like a rattlesnake. It looks exactly like a rattlesnake to me. If I saw that out, that's the first thing I would think. And can't they shake their tails like a rattlesnake?
I was just about to say, so I'm going to come close. You can see his tail. No rattle, but they will wiggle their tail super quick so you can't tell there's no rattle. And they hiss out of the side of their mouth to sound like a rattle.
That is fascinating. Well, we're gonna talk about, but first tell us about the Herpetological Sanctuary. Tell us what you all do. Either one, Joe, jump in there too.
Sanctuary, thanks. The sanctuary got started about 20 years ago, and initially our founders were just trying to address a problem that they saw in the reptile community. They were having issues with all these people buying these cute little 6, 7, 8-inch long green iguanas at pet stores. I'm sure you guys have them down there because they've invaded everywhere at this point. But there was a huge problem with people just inundating zoos with them when they start getting bigger and mean and don't stay good pets forever. And so that was what the sanctuary initially was set out to do. Our founders decided they had a little bit of land that our head curator's property was on, and they were going to put a cage out there and just open their doors to anybody that needed a home for a green iguana. And that first year they took in 27, and then news traveled, word spread. We started taking in snakes and alligators and everything in between. And now we're the largest reptile sanctuary in the entire US.
Wow. Well,
amazing.
Go ahead, Claudia.
So, I mean, there's obviously a lot of misconceptions, and listening to you, Olivia, it sounds like a lot of these snakes, or not a lot of, some of these snakes, display certain behaviors, but they're actually trying to defend themselves. Is that something that you have to tell people, not to run scared every time you and try to kill the snake every time you see one?
Yes, one of the biggest things is just trying to get rid of the fear of snakes that a lot of people have, or just trying to diminish it in any way. Again, they're very important for the environment. They can help with germination of new plants, especially with rattlesnakes. They're important in organic pest control, if you will, for different rodents that can spread more disease to humans. A lot of people just get nervous and think that they're, just more dangerous than they actually are, but they're only going to be dangerous in trying to bite and fight back if you're hurting them first. So they'll be more defensive.
It's fascinating, and I think one of the things I learned when I went to the venomous snake class, and Joe, maybe you can talk to this. It was the differences in venom. So, and we're gonna take you the camera around, not right now, but we'll take the camera around and show the different snakes that are there. But it's fascinating. There's snakes from all over the world there. But let's first talk about the rattlesnakes, because we have rattlesnakes here as well in Los Cabos. They're actually coming out right now. And my understanding too is this is actually part of the Sonoran Desert. It's very similar flora and fauna as Arizona, where you all are. I think obviously there's different probably species of snakes, of rattlesnakes down here. But maybe you can talk a little bit about the differences in venom in rattlesnakes. I know there was a question about, I think Mojaves are more dangerous than other types, and maybe you could just talk a little bit about the differences in venom.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple broad categories that most rattlesnake venoms or most snake venoms will fall under. And two of the biggest broad categories are chemotoxic venoms and neurotoxic venoms. So chemotoxic venoms, hemo means blood, so it's toxic to your blood. And how that functions is once a rattlesnake bites you, their venom is predominantly chemotoxic. It's going to instantly inject that venom into your skin and into your tissue, and it's going to instantly disperse. And as it comes into contact with red blood cells, it causes them just to rip themselves apart, essentially, or pop like water balloons. And then any tissue that has blood running through it will also just start having the same effect happen to any cells in that tissue. And it works out really well for the rattlesnake to have this type of chemotoxic this type of chemotoxic venom, because when they bite a rodent, it does the same thing to them. It starts tearing apart the cells and essentially causes the cells to melt. And in a way, they are starting to digest that rat that they're about to eat from the inside out.
Oh, wow.
Great for them when they're hunting, not so great for us when we get bit, because if you get bit on the hand or ankle, that rattlesnake is essentially digesting that part of your body.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And so you said the other is the neurotoxic?
Yeah, the other broad category are neurotoxic venoms. So instead of causing just local tissue damage like a chemotoxic bite normally will, neurotoxic venoms are what you normally find in things like cobras, black mambas, in the family of snakes called elapids. Stuff that we luckily don't need to deal with a whole bunch. In the New World, we have coral snakes, which fall into that category. So if you've ever seen coral snakes, usually those don't get big enough, at least the Western coral snakes, to inflict bites. But those would be an example of a species with a neurotoxic venom. And instead of directly attacking all the cells it comes into contact with, it's a much more targeted attack on your body. And it's called neurotoxic because it attacks the neurons that your brain uses to send signals to parts of your body. So depending on the type of snake, it will start shutting off specific functions. Like black mambas have a very nasty neurotoxin called dendrotoxin. It's named after them.
Oh.
And it shuts off all the communication between your brain and your lungs. So over the course of anywhere from 30 minutes to 17 hours, you just stop remembering how to breathe on your own without thinking about it. So that's why we're pretty lucky to have most of just rattlesnakes out here with chemotoxic.
So it sounds like you would rather get bit by a hemotoxic venomous snake than a neurotoxic. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
For the most part,
Pick it
at
up
least,
to pick.
yeah, at least as far as chances of survival go, your chances of surviving a hemotoxic bite are actually pretty good. I don't know what Mexico's numbers are, but in the US, we have about 7,000 to 8,000 venomous snake bites every year. And out of all 7,000 to 8,000 of those bites, there's usually only about 5 to 10 deaths. And a big part of that is because our bites are hemotoxic and they're causing mostly just local tissue damage. So they're going to hurt really bad. They're going to give you a fat medical bill, but you're not going to die from the bite, generally speaking.
And I think you had mentioned in that class that when people do die, it's because they're being really dumb and they get bit in the face or they get bit somewhere that's not a good place to get bit. And I think you even mentioned one of the snakes there had bitten somebody, and that's how you got the snake, if I remember correctly.
We have at least 2 snakes that killed the previous owners.
Oh my gosh.
You're right. And what I like to point out is it's not one mistake that gets you killed by a rattlesnake. It's making a couple mistakes in order. And one of them is an albino rattlesnake. It was bred to be a pet. So there's your first mistake. You have a pet rattlesnake. Second mistake, he wanted to show off that his rattlesnake was hand tamed. And he didn't think he needed to use tools to hold it or pick it up. And so he picked it up with his bare hands. And so he survived his second mistake. And that was allegedly going well from everybody at the party. This was happening at a party.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of the third mistake, he had been drinking, alcohol was involved.
Oh,
And then finally, the fourth mistake that cost him his life, he went to kiss the rattlesnake to show off how calm it was. And when he got to his face, it bit him on the neck. And the swelling was happening so fast, there was nothing EMTs could do in the hospital at the time.
Oh my gosh, it's that story's coming back to me. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
The moral of the story is don't kiss a rattlesnake
Don't
while
kiss a
you're
rattlesnake.
drunk at a party. Like, don't do
Remind
that.
adults not to do that.
Amen.
Oh my gosh. So now you did mention those too, and I'm not sure if we have Mojaves in Cabo. I need to figure that out. But you mentioned that 50% of Mojaves have the neurotoxic. Is that correct? Or
So-
something like that?
It's not necessarily an even 50-50, but Mojave rattlesnakes are famous for having a neurotoxic element to their venom. There's what's called Mojave toxin A and Mojave toxin B, and they're the same species of rattlesnakes, but depending where in the environment you find them, their venom will be different. So typically, the farther north you go, the more Mojaves you find that have Mojave toxin A in their system, which is going to be real similar to your just normal rattlesnake bite. It's going to be a chemotoxic venom. It's going to cause that cell death in a local area in one place, but it won't spread throughout your whole body too bad. As you head further and further south, you start to find more Mojave rattlesnakes that have Mojave toxin B, which is going to be the more severe neurotoxic venom. So on top of having your local tissue damage and pain from the bite, the person might also start having difficulty speaking. They might start slurring their words, and you'll start seeing some neurological systemic failures of their body. But the good news is, regardless of what type of Mojave rattlesnake bites you, or if any other type of rattlesnake bites you, there's one anti-venom called Profab and another called anti-vitamin that will treat all rattlesnake bites. And at least here in the US, most of the hospitals have it on hand just because of how common rattlesnake bites are.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
for Cabo and Mexico in general, if you do get a snake bite, you should go to the Centro de Salud. That's it's not normally carried by private hospitals. Go to the public hospital, and it's called Centro de Salud. That's where antivenoms are found.
But we are speaking with Joe Hymes and Olivia Bogues of the Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary, and we are going to take a quick break. You don't want to miss it. You want to see this on Cabomil News on Facebook, because we're going to have some bonus material here at the break. We'll continue the conversation, but stay with us. We'll be right back. All right. So we'll continue talking here. Oh, there's my timer. So how about pets? Tell us about pets. What happens if they get bit by a rattlesnake? Because I know that a lot of the people here are worried about that.
Yeah, but you'd be better at that too, because you might know more with the dog stuff.
Yeah, great question. So it depends on where your pet is bitten. Of course, a bite to the face where it could start to affect the airways if there's swelling is going to be a lot worse than a bite to, say, its paw or some other part of its body where it's not going to affect the airways. But the good news is dogs and cats both handle bites a lot better than humans do. A lot of dogs, especially larger dogs, are able to survive rattlesnake bites even if treatment isn't available. Of course, if you have the option, get them to a vet. That'll increase their chances of surviving. They do have anti-venom for dogs and cats too that they can treat them with. But the good news is dogs and cats usually handle it a lot better than people and can survive as long as that medical treatment is sought out.
And do humans survive without medical treatment, or do they have to get medical treatment? Is that, I mean, if
they will typically survive if you're talking about a healthy adult, no underlying conditions. They might have permanent damage if they don't get treatment. If you go get treatment, you're treated within a few hours of the bite. You can expect not to have any permanent damage if it's a typical bite. If you don't get any treatment though, that's when you can expect more permanent nerve and tendon damage. Muscle, skin, fat, all of that will come back with time if the venom rots it away. But once the tendon has been removed by the venom or too severely damaged by the venom, that will never come back. And the example I always go to is actually our president of the sanctuary here had been keeping one of the largest reptile sanctuaries, one of the largest venomous collections for years. He finally got his first rattlesnake bite and went to go get treated, and he found out he was allergic to the anti-venom.
Oh my gosh.
All they could do was keep it clean and try to manage pain. And because of that, it completely ate away the tendon in the back of his finger. So he still has the finger, but he can't fully retract it. He can't fully extend it. And we give him a hard time that he can't make a fist around it. It looks like he's making a rude gesture.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's bad luck.
The longer people wait, you just have more risk for that permanent damage and, necrotic tissue. So you have to have amputations. Yeah, I feel like I got lucky that you got to keep that finger. They were keeping it, otherwise it would have had to come right off.
Oh wow. And oh my gosh, I have so many questions, Claudia. Do you have any questions that come on? There's just so many things now that my mind's going all over the place about.
I think it'd be important to talk about the difference between the venomous snakes and then the constrictors, because there's also a lot of people that get boas and pythons and constricting snakes as pets, and that poses a different kind of danger or threat if you don't know how to properly handle them.
Try to talk a lot about that with our education classes and even just tour groups that come through, so that we can say, hey, some of these animals you're allowed to have in the pet trade, but you have to do your research, make sure you house them properly to keep yourself safe, other people safe, and of course the animal to keep them safe. And in Florida right now, they're having such an issue with so many released pets that are causing their own invasive species. So people will talk about the Burmese pythons, there's tegu lizards down there now, chameleons. There's a lot of different things thriving in the Everglades.
Yeah, big 5-foot tegus and up to 17, 20-foot Burmese pythons that are just out in the wild now because people
Oh
let
my
them
gosh.
go.
And
I mean,
they were not handled with their owners. They're very mean.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's incredible. Well, Claudia, what do you think? I was thinking how to take the conversation. I want to talk a little bit. I think when we go back on the air, I'll mention what we talked about off the air here.
Yeah.
And also about dry bites. I think dry bites are interesting just to go on that conversation. Also, you had mentioned, Joe, in the class that you did last week, there's some wives' tales about rattlesnakes. One is like a baby rattlesnake doesn't have as much venom or has more, whatever that is. I don't know what the wives' tale is, but I remember everyone thinks that baby rattlesnakes are more dangerous because they've never used their venom or something. They can't control it. But I think a couple of those stories. And then I'd like to, Olivia, in terms of education, what would you like to touch on to make sure that we get to...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the education, we can talk more about the pets with everybody if they have more questions. But just kind of we really like to educate about coexistence. So definitely just around, the reptiles in your own areas down there with rattlesnakes even. What we talked about a little bit in the beginning, they're just really defensive. So when people are really going up close to these animals to hurt them, to get them away from their property, or just to kill them in general, you're now putting yourself in that situation where they're going to 100% be defensive and now be on a fight or flight response, and that just makes it unsafe for everybody. So just reminding everyone to move slowly around the animals. You can move around a rattlesnake if it's in the middle of a pathway to get them out of the way, or for yourself to get out of the way. But kind of just reminding everyone that, hey, these animals are in your own backyard, dangerous or not, and just to kind of make sure you're safe and that they're safe too.
Okay, cool. I see you have the rattlesnake removal kit there, right?
Part of it, yeah. I went and grabbed a hook and also a baby rattlesnake, a baby Mexican West Coast rattlesnake to show you guys.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Oh, awesome.
All right, so this is what I'm thinking is that we'll come back. We'll talk about the wives' tales, some of the stereotypes about rattlesnakes, and we're gonna blow them out of the water. And you'll talk about them. Then we will. I mean, all this is on air right now, so you guys know that. Where a lot of people watch it this way instead. But then I'd like to also just touch on, and maybe I think I'm going to come back this way, touching on all the different snakes that you have there. So I'll talk about that first. We'll go into dry bites, and then let's talk about crocodiles and some of the other things, because that's what blew me away too, was to realize that there was that many of them there when I was there.
Sounds good.
And that they're just out in people's yards or wherever in Arizona and then you think about that, they're all over. People have these exotic animals all over the world. So we'll talk about that when we come back. So Claudia, we're 27 minutes, right?
Yes.
And then we come back for a third segment just to say goodbye, or?
Yeah, just a 1 minute.
Okay, great. All right. You tell me when to go.
And 3, 2.
Welcome back to Cabomil News and Community Update in English. Korey Riggs and Claudia Velo, and we have some other guests with us. Is that Sharon the snake? I got to remember the name.
Yes.
Sheriff. It's Sheriff, not Sharon. It's Sheriff. And we have Joe Hymes, who is the Venom Curator from the Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary, and Olivia Bogues, who is the Conservation Educator. You are listening to 96.3 FM, but you must go to Facebook at Cabomil News because you will see all the things we're talking about. We're talking about snakes and a lot of the creepy things. So you go there. We're learning a lot of good information and taking away some of the stereotypes, taking away some of the fear, because they're not to be feared if you treat them with respect. And that's what we're learning today. Well, one thing is, when I went to the Herpetological Sanctuary, one of the things that blew me away was all of the black mambas and the green mamba and the cobras and all of the snakes from all over the world were there. And it was amazing to know that these snakes have been rescued from Arizona. Is that correct, or do they come from other places, Joe?
We get a lot of them from in the state in Arizona, but there aren't a lot of reptile sanctuaries like us. So we've gotten calls from Seattle to Ohio to New York to North Carolina. And before COVID, everything happened with that, we were even in communications with a zoo from Canada.
Oh my gosh.
Canada in the past. So they come from all over.
But you think about that, Claudia, that means that there are people sitting right now in their homes in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, and they have these types of snakes in their houses. And you think, what happens if these snakes get out? As we were just talking about on the break, is in Florida, they have the invasive species. They have pythons that have just been let go. Well, imagine you're walking out in the desert and all of a sudden there's a cobra. I promise there is no anti-venom for that in anywhere in Arizona because no one would expect that. But that's, I think, one of the dangers in Joe and Olivia. Isn't that a danger of people having these type of reptiles and they get out and all of a sudden someone gets bit by a snake and it's not a rattlesnake?
Yeah.
Yes, it could be a rush for time for sure, but we make sure we have all of our protocols in place and the required anti-venoms for the snakes here to make sure if we have any issues with that, we can help, in any way we can. So even if someone has their own illegal pet cobra and they're bitten and end up at a hospital, we can actually try and help them as well.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah, usually zoos kind of end up paying the price when that happens. If somebody has an illegal venomous cobra or other exotic snake and it gets out and bites somebody else, or just the person who had them illegally ends up getting bitten by it, usually it's local zoos that end up having to pay that price because they'll get a call from the hospital asking, do you have this on hand? Do you keep this anti-venom? Because most reputable zoos will keep the anti-venom because their U.S. hospitals aren't going to keep types of anti-venom for species that aren't native.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so it puts zoos in a hard place where no zoo is going to say, no, we're not going to give it to you. But if a zoo like us, we have to give our anti-venom to somebody who got bitten. And then it puts us in a really rough place because now if I get bitten just doing my daily job, we might not have a medication for myself. But
Oh, wow.
it's something that we work with a lot of zoos on to keep that medicine available.
Have you gotten bitten, Joe, in your regular job?
Not by anything venomous. I've had my share of embarrassing non-venomous bites from snakes that I picked up a little overconfidently, but nothing venomous. I'm very careful. I always use tools and hooks at a distance, so I don't let myself take that risk.
Yes. Yeah. Luckily, I never get too close to have that happen.
There's this tendency among people to humanize wild animals. And there are certain movements that might be read as, oh, she's trying to be friendly. Like right now, I'm seeing Sheriff kind of like crawl all over your face and getting close to your face. And it might seem to be like, oh, she's trying to give you a kiss or whatever. How important is it for people to understand that these are still, even if they live in a cage or an aquarium or whatever container they live in, they're wild animals. They're not humanized. They will not become like a puppy or anything like that. Or is that something that is also a misconception and you can actually train and make a reptile become more friendly?
I mean, I would say it's a little mix of both. If you have anything else, right, to add to that?
It's a little bit of both. Like Olivia said, there are definitely species. At the end of the day, they are all wild animals. They're going to do what wild animals do, and you want to be careful reading too much into. It's getting lost in her hair now. You want to be careful reading too much into their thoughts and motives. As humans, we like to project what we're feeling onto animals a lot. And there are some species like bearded dragons. They are in some parts of the world the third most popular pet, right behind cats and dogs. And they found out that this species of lizard from Australia, bearded dragons, has the mental capacity to recognize their owner, and their brain will respond in ways that it doesn't to just random people. They can appear to see something akin to empathy. But you're absolutely right. There's no such thing as a perfectly tamed snake or a perfectly tamed lizard, because at the end of the day, they've got very small brains, and a lot of what they do is just guided by instinct.
Exactly what I was going to go with. Just, naturally, they're all, I like to think they all have their own individual personalities, but with that, it's just, some are more comfortable with certain things and curious, where others take that instinct and see something bigger and instantly get defensive, try to react and bite and things like that. But yeah, so a lot of them will have more of just those natural instincts where they don't want to be really around anything too large because they just feel like they don't know what you're going to do, not quite understanding. In the wild, they all need to survive and make quick decisions to not get in those situations. As pets, when you're just handling them more every day and they're getting familiar with your smells, your scents, they're getting taken out and handled more so they understand that when they see you, you're not hurting them. That helps a lot. But we like to, just tell a lot of our students as well, these snakes we hold for our education shows are held every day and around people all the time and being handled. Where a gopher snake outside is going to try to act like a rattlesnake, hiss out of its mouth and rattle its tail and try to bite you maybe so that you don't try to pick them up or get too close. So.
That's fascinating. Well, we are with Joe Hymes, who is the Venom Curator, and Olivia Bogues, who is the Conservation Educator at the Phoenix Herpetological Sanctuary. And we were having a great conversation. We were talking about on Off Air, which is on our Facebook page at Cabomil News, which you definitely want to watch for this show. But we were talking about pets being bit by snakes and that they'll probably survive. Dogs will probably survive even without treatment. And we were talking about humans getting bit and the difference in chemotoxic and neurotoxic venoms. And we wanted to talk about also, and I see Joe, you brought out some equipment here. I think you brought out a snake, a rattlesnake, and we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the myths that come about rattlesnakes, and also if you can talk about dry bites as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a heads up. I'm going to pull out the snake here so you can see what we're talking about.
Oh my gosh, here comes a rattlesnake. Can you believe this, Claudia?
Support.
And you can hear him. So this is about a 1-year-old rattlesnake.
Oh, wow.
He is a Mexican West Coast rattlesnake. I'll hold the rattle next to the camera.
There he is. Oh my gosh. This is incredible.
I don't know if you can hear him right now, but he is rattling that. It's real quiet because of the size.
Mm-hmm.
But that is about a 1-year-old Mexican West Coast rattlesnake, a little on the small size. But like you said on the break, we were talking about dry bites, and that is the word or the phrase for when a rattlesnake bites, but doesn't necessarily inject any venom. Rattlesnakes and all venomous snakes are in complete control on whether or not they actually inject venom when they bite. And that's kind of where the myth comes from, that a baby rattlesnake is going to be more dangerous than an adult rattlesnake. Baby rattlesnakes don't know what dry bites are. Everything feels like a life and death situation for them. So if I were to not use the tool and put my hand too close to him, he would bite me and most likely inject venom.
Okay.
He doesn't know any better yet. Whereas an adult might realize that I'm a stupid human, I made a bad decision, and he might just bite me to let me know, but not actually inject any venom into me. So you can get lucky with an adult rattlesnake. But the important thing to know is it's not true that a baby's bite is worse. It's more likely that they will inject you. But if an adult rattlesnake does envenomate you, does give you actual venom in its bite, an adult has so much more venom than a baby does. An adult injecting only half of its venom is still going to be worse than a baby injecting every last drop of its venom.
Wow. And how old does a snake have to get before you quit calling them a baby? Like, what's the separation between baby and adult?
Well, me calling him a baby is a little bit of me projecting human emotions on him again. The more appropriate term is a neonate rattlesnake at this size. And typically they're considered a neonate up until the point where they're about a year old. And so this one, it'd be more appropriate for me to be calling him a yearling rattlesnake.
Okay.
And then from there, it moves on to being, I don't know if you saw that, man. He just struck at you guys.
He just struck at us. He just struck at us. That snake just struck.
I'm checking my laptop for venom right now.
Wow.
Oh my gosh! Did he squirt?
There is I wish I had a way to show it to you. There is a little bit of venom now.
He just struck again.
Yeah, he did just strike again. So I'm going to set him down. And
let's set him down.
Good idea.
Oh my god! That was incredible.
I hope you guys had 3D glasses on watching this on Facebook.
Oh my gosh, that was fascinating. Wow.
I hope not everybody reacts that way to our voices.
Oh my gosh.
Right,
anyway,
I forgot where we were before that.
Well, that was and amazing that there's venom actually on the screen there. That's pretty interesting.
It just goes to show the babies. It doesn't matter if a leaf falls next to them or if a computer gets too loud next to them. They inject venom every time.
Claudia, our show's ratings just went through the roof. This was incredible to have it. We have a snake that just struck at us. Hey, Joe, I want to ask, and Claudia, do you want to ask anything else about the rattlesnakes before I move on from rattlesnakes?
I was going to ask something, but I was so excited about the whole fight. Oh no, I know what I wanted to ask. So how's their eyesight? Because obviously they react to different things. Is it by sight, by scent? What is it?
That's a fantastic question. So their eyesight is very perceptive to movement. So there's the old cliche from the Jurassic Park movies, where they're like, don't move and he won't see us. That's not exactly how rattlesnakes see, but it is how their eyes are tuned. If you've ever gotten close to one in a zoo or one that's hopefully behind glass, their pupils aren't round like ours. They have these kind of elliptical pupils that just run vertically inside the eye, up and down. And a big reason for that is it makes their eyes very, very perceptive to slight movements. And that's because they're ambush predators. So they'll sit in the same place for days, weeks, waiting for food to come by. And then when it finally does, they are able to just see those slightest movements of it first entering its field of vision. That way it can wind up and strike before the mouse or bird has any idea what's happening. But on top of that, they don't just see with their eyes. Rattlesnakes are what you call pit vipers. So they've got their nostrils, and then right below their nostrils, they have two more little holes that are the heat pits. And those wire up to the part of the brain that senses warmth. And so they can actually see the shapes of objects. Even if they didn't have their eyes, they can see the warmth that things put off. And so that's something that you might remember from the class you took. You can pick them up with tongs, and they won't be looking at the tongs that are actually picking them up. They're looking at a big warm person that is manipulating the tongs, so they can see that heat and know what the real threat is.
And can they hear anything? Do they have ears?
Absolutely. They don't have external ears. I don't know if you want to hold sheriffs up closer so people can see. So there aren't any ears or any holes, but we have, as humans and most mammals, we have 3 bones inside of our middle ear. And those act as an amplifier to bring the sound to our cochlea that then wires it to our brain and lets us know what we're hearing. With snakes, they have bones similar to the bones in our middle ear inside the back of their jaw. And since their jaw is on the ground, any vibrations that come up through the ground will go through those bones that are essentially ear bones that are in their jaw. And it has the effect of them hearing with their jawbone, essentially. So they can hear within the range of about 20 hertz on up to about 200 hertz. And what I like about that fun fact is the average human voice is about 200 hertz. So they can hear us talking.
We may have to put a warning on this show, Claudia, with what people are seeing, so they don't freak out. But Sheriff just came. But Sheriff is a lot nicer than. Is there a name for the rattlesnake that we just saw? Or?
I don't have a name for him. He's a baby that we bred here last year, and a lot of the times we send the babies out to other zoos. So I try not to name them and get too attached.
Well, I'm going to name him Striker. So we got a Striker and we got Sheriff. So we get, and Sheriff seems to be a lot nicer. And thanks for sharing. I want to ask this because I know that I don't know if it's possible, but is there any way to show like a cobra or some other, or just the area, like what other snakes are there? And you could even just tell us about them, show us around. Oh my gosh, isn't this so cool?
So this is an area you don't normally get to see on tours. This is our back room, but you can see all of those cages behind me.
Yeah,
all venomous snake cages. So this is actually sitting in just the right place.
Oh, there he is.
That is a black mamba.
Oh my God.
Probably about 9 feet long.
Oh my God.
9 feet long.
Anybody who would be interested in seeing what he looks like out of his enclosure, I do have a reptile YouTube channel called Herpin Hippie. And there's a video of him shedding his skin. He's got about 8 feet long shed. And you can see
he's going, oh my gosh.
Where they get the name Black Mamba from. Yep. If you saw him crack his mouth open, the inside of his mouth is just this jet black color. And so that's where they get their name from.
Me hugging you.
So, very perceptive.
Oh, he is. Wow. So question, when you're 9 foot, you have a 9 foot body and you're a snake, how far can you strike?
So the rule of thumb for most snakes is they can strike about a third of their body length. So that 9 footer could probably strike about 3 feet. So when I'm working with him, I'm holding the very edge of the hook and I'm keeping him as far away
Wow.
from me as I can.
Yeah.
They're also
Yeah.
the fastest species in the world and can
Wow.
cruise at about 12 miles per hour.
And is that the most venomous snake you have there, or is there?
No, the most venomous one, if you want to walk with me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this you? If you're listening to this on the radio, you need to go get on Cabomil News on the Facebook page because this is fascinating.
It's incredible.
Right.
It's incredible.
So they're down here on the bottom shelf, so we never have to move them too far.
Yeah.
But you can see him sticking his head up right.
Oh, there he is.
That is one of the snakes you might have heard about while you were in Australia. That is an inland taipan, and
Yes.
they are drop for drop the most venomous land snake in the world. It is said that one of those snakes, and we have two in this enclosure that were both people's pets here in Arizona.
Oh my gosh.
Each one of those snakes contains enough venom in its glands to kill about 100 grown men. So that's drop for drop the worst snake we have here.
Oh my gosh! And if you get bitten by something like that, is that you're done, or is there an antivenom for that, or?
So we have a really skilled team of toxicologists who usually do a good job of making me not worry too much about that. That's one of the only snakes that they haven't done a good job on. Our toxicologists told us that if we get bitten by our inland taipan, our king brown, our eastern brown, we've got about 30 minutes to go see her until things get really bad. And the hospital's about 45 minutes away from us. So there's some speeding happening if that bite ever happens.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, it's fascinating. And tell us, before we start getting away from snakes, how many species of snakes do you have there?
Oh boy. I think right now we're sitting right around 76 different types of snakes. And that's about 26 rattlesnake species. I think we've got around 17 species of cobra and another 30 some odd species of various vipers from all over the world.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Claudia, I'm blown away by this.
Wow, that's crazy. It's amazing. I was in Zimbabwe many years ago, and everybody has, well, not everybody, but when you're out in the bush, everybody lives in these rondevals, which are round little huts. And we were, we know nothing. And so we were asking like really dumb questions. And one of them was like, why are all the houses round? And it's precisely for that, because if a snake, and there are black mambas there, walks in, you make sure nothing is stuck to the wall so that they can just walk around and kind of like, slither around.
Slither. I wouldn't say walking.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Slither around and exit, because it's like they have such respect for the fact that a black mamba is something that they're not even going to try to control or anything. It's just like crazy.
That's amazing. I have a friend who visited Thailand going out looking for reptiles, and he mentioned one of the people he stayed with said they have a king cobra that regularly just helps itself through the kitchen and in through the back door and leaves on its own, and they just let it do its thing. They pay attention and stay out of that part of the house when he's living in it.
Yeah, that's the epitome of coexistence, I would say.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, if we can move on from snakes, great information on snakes. But what else? I know when I was there was actually crocodiles and alligators. And can you guys talk about that? Because that also blew me away that people own them in Arizona.
Yeah. First, do you need a hand with Sheriff, or do you got him?
I'm wearing two shirts. He went into both shirts. So.
Oh my gosh, he's.
So, snakes, they've got no personal boundaries.
No, I can see that.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. The ill-advised pet reptiles doesn't just stop with illegal venomous snakes. People will buy pet alligators and pet crocodiles all the time. And two of the ones that we get most commonly here are American alligators that people will buy when they're cute and little and 4 or 5 inches long. And then Morlet's crocodiles, which you may be familiar with or may encounter. But Morlet's crocodiles are another really commonly kept illegal species here. And we provide homes for them the same as the snakes that we get here at the sanctuary.
And what do you do with these crocodiles? Because these are big crocodiles and alligators. And when I was there, I couldn't believe it. And I think the story was that there was a helicopter flying over someone's ranch or something, and they saw all these mud pits. And can you tell us the story?
Yeah. Two of our first American alligators that came here. And actually, the longer I've been here, the more I've heard two stories, and the more they kind of start blending together. But the story was initially that it was a helicopter that first reported this house because they noticed this backyard that was just completely flooded. They thought that maybe the homeowners had gone on vacation and a pipe burst, and so they called it in. And upon further investigation, they found out that no, it wasn't a burst pipe. This person on purpose turned their backyard into a swamp for his two pet alligators. He had about a 6 foot and then a 7 foot long American alligator, both living in his backyard. And the other side of that story that I heard, maybe it was what finally got them to be visited by law enforcement and have somebody follow up on this helicopter call, was a neighbor's cat went missing. And they never could find the cat, but they found the alligators.
Oh my gosh. Olivia, you made it back. Sheriff let you go.
False alarm. Really getting into those crannies.
So besides that, go ahead, Claudia.
Yeah, just as we were seeing Sheriff kind of like wrap all around you, and something that we haven't mentioned on air, it's a little bit about constrictor snakes and how they can also be kind of an issue if you don't know how to properly handle them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Being a part of our education team, we really like to just reach out and give resources to people that try to have certain snakes as pets, because you can own an anaconda as a pet, a reticulated python. Those are some of the longest and heaviest snakes in the whole world, where they can get over 20 feet long for both species. Wow. So it's really just making sure, if you're wanting to take that on as a pet, getting your right, handling skills up, and doing your research that you have them living in the proper enclosures. And honestly, when snakes are that big, even here, we don't work with them alone. We have at least 2 to 3 people working with those snakes, just cleaning their enclosures and giving them water, because they can be large constrictors that they just wrap around you. It's nearly impossible to get them off your body by yourself. So luckily with this, I was able to handle him myself.
No, because you have some big constrictors there too. You have some huge ones, if I remember right.
Yeah, our biggest one right now, we think she's our biggest. She's about 22-ish feet long, and she's a reticulated python. And our rule of thumb, just for reference, if you ever do encounter a constrictor and just kind of addressing those concerns, they're not nearly as dangerous to people as non-venomous snakes. But our policy here is if a snake is over 6-7 feet long, somewhere in that range, that's when you don't work with it by yourself anymore. Because even me as a pretty big guy, if I weren't paying attention, if a snake were to get around my neck, he might just be holding on and not wanting to fall 6 feet to the floor, but he doesn't know that he's cutting off my oxygen. So for that reason, like Olivia was saying, any big snakes, any constrictor over 6 feet, really, you should have at least one other person with you. We like to joke, we like to have 3 people. So if you get bit, you have one person to help get the snake off of you and one person to run and get more help.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've got about a minute and a half left before we're going to take our second break, and we are going to keep you over a little bit because we're going to keep talking to you, and we'll probably be able to see more things. I'm going to ask you about a couple other things here. We want to talk about Frederick, the Gila monster, as well. But it's really interesting. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Again, we're going to continue the conversation in the break. Anything about how people could get involved in the sanctuary, because this is very important work that you're doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anybody here in Arizona or in the Phoenix area, we are constantly looking for volunteers who are able to come out at least 4 hours a week for the first 3 months while they're getting trained. If that sounds like something that you could do and would be interested in, we're always looking to hear from you. We've got an application on our website, phoenixherp.com. And if you are not so into volunteering with the venomous species or are worried about snakes, but like lizards and tortoises, that's okay. We have all sorts of volunteer roles to put you working with what you're comfortable with, if that's something you're interested in.
Well, we'll make sure. Go ahead, Olivia.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say we do lots of training with education team as well. People are just wanting to learn more about them, helping with tours. We do internships for schools and college internships and things like that. So again, always just reach out, ask us questions, and check out our website.
Well, the training I've been through 2 of them. They're first class. I highly recommend it. You need to go out there. You learn a lot. I mean, just as if you watch the show today, you've learned a lot. And just thank you guys so much. Also, we're going to make sure that all the information is on our Facebook page so they can click on. You can also make a donation. This is a nonprofit organization, so it's tax-deductible donation. And just thank you guys for being here. We're going to have you stick around. We're going to continue the conversation into the break, and we'll finish up with you. But thank you for being here, and we'll be right back.
Perfect.
Wow, I timed that perfect, huh?
That was perfect.
So go ahead, Claudia. Do you have any questions? I got a couple more that I was gonna.
No, I mean, I have. If you can just let us know your YouTube channel so that we can put it on the website. On our Facebook page, and also the website for the Herpetological Sanctuary.
I sent that to you, Claudia. You have the sanctuary website. I'll send it to you.
That's right. I got
that one's there.
Just
and
the
then
YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, that's HERPIN Herpin. So short for herpetology.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hippie HIPPIE. That was just kind of a joke that came from people always laughing at the long hair. So I rolled with it, and that's where I post videos of all of our venomous collection here and things about how snakes hear and how snakes move and things about that. Just to dive in and more in detail information for anyone curious about that.
Really cool. Really cool. Tell us about. I don't know if we have time to see Frederick. Did she go to get Frederick, or?
She actually, I think I
had to go.
I thought there's only 2 20-minute segments, so she got pulled to go to a school, I think.
Got it.
I can go put Sheriff away, and I can get Frederick out.
No worries. No worries. You know,
with me since I am 11 now.
Okay. Very cool. So we can see Frederick. Now, Joe, we were talking about whether there's Gila monsters in Los Cabos in this area. Do you know? I've never heard of it. Have you, Claudia?
No, I haven't. I mean, we get several reptiles and lizards and things, but I've never heard of Gila monsters in this area.
From what I could see, they don't come down that far south. It looks like you can get them in the kind of the main coast of Mexico, like in Sinaloa. They can come down that.
Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. Sinaloa.
Yeah, from what I was looking at. But from what I could tell, you don't really have them.
Okay.
But right here behind me is one of our Gila monsters. I've got the cage open already.
Oh, wow.
Probably who you saw during your class. This is Frederick, and I'm being very careful just to wake him up slowly behind the neck. He looked like he fell asleep taking a bath.
Wow.
You get a better grip on him as soon as I set the laptop down again. He's like, why are you waking me up and why are you holding me up?
Oh, so beautiful. What a beautiful animal.
Gorgeous.
Frederick, and he is another animal here at the sanctuary that has seniority on me. He's been here for at least 10 years now and was initially picked up because a bus driver just going on his pickup route, picking up kids for school, saw a bunch of kids poking something in a bush, and it turned out to be one of these venomous Gila monsters.
Oh my gosh. Nah, he's so beautiful. Look at that skin, Claudia.
Yeah, I wish I could reach through the screen and touch them too, because they have this very rough pattern to them, a rough texture that comes from all these bones that just sit right in the first layer of skin. So if something tries to bite it, it won't get in far enough to do any real damage, and it will buy him enough time to spin around and bite it back and inject it with venom.
Wow, incredible. Well, I think that's what a beautiful animal.
It looks so like ancient, like prehistoric.
Yeah.
You really are. They're an animal time forgot.
Amazing.
Well, Joe, tell us also about, you have insects there too, if I remember. Is that correct? You do insect rescue? Can you believe this, Claudia?
It sounds silly, but there is, we get all the weird things that there's no other sanctuary for. So we do get things like scorpions, tarantulas, Just a little over a year ago, somebody passed away, and they had a huge collection of some of the most venomous spiders in the entire world. And fish didn't know what else to do but send them to us. So we took those in and helped get them distributed to other zoos. And we work with a little bit of everything. Right now, the weirdest thing we've recently gotten was a gar. If you're familiar with that large prehistoric type fish, they have almost the face of an alligator.
Oh, yeah.
Body of a fish. A random pet store in town was just given this by somebody who realized it wasn't going to be a good pet for them. we're the first call, and now we have this fish that we're learning how to care for and might be making a crocodile pond for someday.
What an amazing career you've chosen, and so interesting because, a gar comes, I'm sure you have to learn everything about it, and it's such an interesting thing to learn all these things, and what a great service to the community as well.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely thrilling to get to work with new species on an almost daily basis and to constantly be learning. I love disappearing down research wormholes, just finding out everything I can about various species. So it's definitely very rewarding work.
I want to know what moves people to have like a collection of the most poisonous spiders in the world. Why?
Some people, I think it's just they feel macho, and it's a way of saying that they're big and tough and can have these animals. And
wow. I
don't know, other people are just like the Tiger King guy. They just like showing off and think they can make a quick buck off of it.
Crazy.
It's interesting world that we live in, but Joe, thank you so much for being on the show today. We hope we can have you back again sometime. We'd love to go see the tortoises, maybe go see the crocodiles outside. We can even take a look at the insects and some of the other species that you have. But it's been very helpful for our listeners, and just really, really nice to connect with you. And we'll make sure that people have the information. We have a lot of people from Arizona, from the Phoenix area down here. So we'd love for them to get involved, go donate, go volunteer, go get some education. Absolutely. So
awesome.
So, well, thank you, Joe. Thank you. Please thank Olivia for us. We know she got pulled away to go do her other work.
Absolutely. I'll pass it on. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
It was awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thanks a lot, Joe. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Talk to you next time.
Bye. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Wow. Amazing.
I think that moment when the snake struck was just.
Oh my God. That was amazing.
But even the other snake coming towards us too was so interesting, fascinating. Wow. Anyway, when I went there 2 years ago, I was like, oh, I can't wait to come back, and what a cool place, and what interesting work. All right, so we're coming back to close it out.
Yeah. Give me a sec. Okay. All right. And 3, 2.
Welcome back to Cabomil News and Community Update in English with Korey Riggs and Claudia Velo. Claudia, what an incredible show today. If you are listening to this on the radio, you must go see the Facebook page at Cabomil News and watch this entire show. You will actually see a rattlesnake strike at you if that happens.
Yes, it does.
Our ratings are going to go through the roof, Claudia. I have a great feeling about it. But Claudia, why don't you tell everybody what happened today in Spanish, please?
El día de hoy tuvimos la presencia de expertos en serpientes y reptiles del Santuario Herpetológico de Phoenix. Estuvo con nosotros Joe Hymes, que es el curador de venenos, y Olivia Bogues, que es la educadora en conservación. No se pierdan la transmisión en Facebook Live, Cabomil News, porque de veras el programa de radio se queda corto.
It was a great show, Claudia. Amazing. Again, and I don't know how we're going to top this show next week, but we'll find a way. We'll find a way. We'll find a way. We have lots of good guests coming up, lots of good leaders in Los Cabos and other areas of the world. Stay tuned to listen to us every Sunday from 6 to 7 p.m. 96.3 FM, or follow us on Facebook at Cabomil News. We will see you next week. Have a great one.
See you next time.